Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. Article from Verizon's News Center. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys can check it out. So, Verizon is clearly changing right in front of our eyes. Now, they're not using their postpaid brand to do it, which they've already alluded to publicly that they wouldn't. But they are using their value brands to compete. So before Verizon owned all of these brands, as it pertained to competition, Verizon really didn't want to be mentioned with any other competitor because once you are mentioned amongst competition, that brings comparison. And that's why T-Mobile was always talking about Verizon and AT&T because they wanted to be compared, because they knew they were cheaper. They had perks at the time. They were just completely operating differently versus the competition, and that's why they continued to call out Verizon and AT&T. Dumb and Dumber, all of that language that was used during that time was for that specific reason, to be compared, because they knew they were disruptive. They knew they were cheaper, and they wanted to be compared on price. And when the average consumer compares competition, right? Some of them do compare networks, but 9 times out of 10, they compare plan pricing, features, and what types of promotions that they can get. That's what they compare. And that's why you would hardly ever hear Verizon mention T-Mobile's name back then, because they didn't want to give T-Mobile free publicity, free marketing, because they knew once the consumer compared, they would probably lose to T-Mobile because they're disruptive and cheaper. And that's what ended up happening. For most of those quarters, T-Mobile was able to outgrow Verizon significantly. And they still do today. But now Verizon is calling out the competition, but they're doing so by using their value brand. So now they're calling out Metro. They're calling out Mint, Ultra Mobile, you name it. They're calling them out because they're coming in cheaper. So now they want you to compare. They even have a comparison chart. They want you to compare their plan pricing because they know it's better and cheaper. That's what they're using now to really create the competition and create a competitive space in the value segment. My only gripe, and I've said this in several videos and I'm sticking to it, they have too many brands now. They got Family Mobile, Simple Mobile under Walmart. They have Straight Talk. They have Total Wireless. They have Visible. They have Verizon Prepaid. It's just too many brands. They need to, at some point, consolidate. And I'm very confident that they will. It might not be this year. It might not be next year. At some point, along the lines of the leadership, whenever they, change, and they will, of course, over the years, change leadership, they will consolidate that value segment. Trust me on that. They will consolidate at some point. It's just too many brands that they have to push to the market. Too many go-to strategies, go-to market strategies, too much spend on marketing and brand perception and all that from each individual brand that they own. So if they consolidate that, it's going to lead to cost savings. It's going to lead to cost savings once they are able to consolidate. I believe they should just keep Total Wireless and Visible. Everything else consolidate into Total Wireless. Visible is the digital to consumer, so that one stays the way it is. But everything else, Straight Talk, SafeLink, Family Mobile, all the mobiles, consolidated. It's too much. It's too much to push. It confuses the consumer. And at the end of the day, like I said before, you're probably just swapping the same customers back and forth. Oh, I like this deal. Oh, I want that deal. And the consumer not knowing it's all Verizon, they're literally just swapping the customers back and forth. And then again, they have to compete against themselves, right? Verizon Prepaid cuts price by 50%, then they have to cut pricing with Total Wireless, because now all of a sudden all these Total Wireless customers are porting over to Verizon prepaid when it's all the same network. So consolidation is a must, in my opinion. I will stick to that, and I think we will see that at some point. Just too many brands competing for the same customer at the same price point. You know, how much lower can you go than $15? Are you going to go down to $5? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up today as it stands, right? Because now look at all the changes that they've made, right? They made price cuts to Verizon prepaid. They made cuts to Visible to respond to Mint Mobile. They're making cuts on Total Wireless. They've also made the same 50% cut on Straight Talk. And each of those brands individually have to have some type of go-to market push, right? You can just keep it where it's at, right? You're inside of Walmart. With Straight Talk, you can advertise locally at the Walmarts. But at some point, there has to be some kind of national push alerting the consumer that this is going on. Hey, we got this deal. This is the way it's structured. Take it or leave it, right? In that sense. And it has to be unique. And Verizon hasn't been really great at executing as it pertains to the uniqueness. So they've just been straightforward. And this messaging, they are straightforward. There's nothing unique about it. We have a better deal. We're cheaper. Come see us. That's what they're saying. Total Wireless launches $15 per line offer for Metro, Mint Mobile, Ultra Mobile, and T-Mobile switchers. Straightforward. Right? 5-year price guarantee, $15 per line. It's straightforward. And that's what this comparison shows. That they are simply cheaper, and they provide better line access, better priority, better network in many cases per root metrics. So that's the new Verizon way, the value segment. That's where you will find them competing. But, you know, if you don't like the postpaid pricing, the premium brand, if you don't want to pay that price, you don't have to. There are several options and different brands out there that you can still be on the Verizon network at the same priority as the people that are paying the pricing for the unlimited ultimate on Verizon and pay less. It's a fact. You're seeing it right here. You can literally go to Total Wireless, pay if you're a Metro, Mint Mobile, Ultra Mobile, and T-Mobile switcher, of course, but you can get the same deal almost on Verizon's prepaid, right? You get 50% off. I think it's for a year, but still, it's a deal, right? It's cheaper. You can get deals on Visible as well. So you can get this right here, what's on screen, $15 per line per month, price lock it in for 5 years, and have the same access as somebody that's paying a higher amount on Verizon postpaid. I mean, it's just insane the times that we're in. If somebody today told you it's not a competitive space, I mean, they're lying to you. It is very competitive. You can literally have Verizon's best network access at the $15 per line per month price point. It's there. You go to a Total Wireless store, they'll set you up, poured in, ready to go. Ready to go. You get price guarantee for 5 years, taxes and fees included. Unlimited data that never slows you down because of how much you use. America's fastest 5G speeds. And you get roaming in Canada, Mexico, and 15 plus countries. Metro and Mint Mobile at the same price. I mean, at the same plan price point, you don't get any of those features. Plus, at the $30 price point, you're paying less with Total Wireless, and you get all of the features that are listed. So it's an interesting time to really look at Verizon, right? Some of you might look at it as a positive, and you should. If you're an average consumer looking for a cheaper bill, this should be a huge positive to you. Now, from an analyst and investor perspective, they might not like this, right? They might say, "Hey, look, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna bust open a can of worms, because this could mean some of your Verizon postpaid customers switch to this plan, right? They could literally go to Mint Mobile and then port back to Total Wireless, have the same line access that they did previously at a cheaper price point." So if that started happening, as I've said before, even when the customers were leaving Verizon postpaid, I said at some point this would reflect in the financials. If they keep losing customers to T-Mobile, AT&T, prepaid MVNOs, cable, right? The cable MVNOs, even though the cable MVNOs pay Verizon for the line access, it's still not the same as the Verizon customer directly paying Verizon on a postpaid plan. So they're still making less. So like I said, investors could see this as a negative. They could say, hey, look, yes, the customer is still on your network. They're still paying you every month, but they're no longer paying you the same line access as they once did when they were on Verizon postpaid. Now they're going to your cheaper plans, paying less, which is less money for you, but they're still getting the same network access. It's crazy to think. But again, Verizon is changing. Times are changing, right? T-Mobile's network is getting better and better and better. And Verizon is starting to feel it. They have to take T-Mobile as a threat. So if T-Mobile comes in and they undercut and they want to mention them, right? And like I said, competition leads to comparison. Well, now the networks are closer than ever before. So they got to compare. They have to call them out. They have to do the comparison. And I believe at some point this will trickle over to postpaid as well, right? Anything T-Mobile related, if you go into a T-Mobile store, as I pointed out in the video recently, you see signs that say save on every plan for Verizon and AT&T customers. All that is noticeable. It's very noticeable. So again, T-Mobile continues to call out AT&T and Verizon, which, if you guessed it, leads to comparisons. So when the consumer compares, they see T-Mobile will be cheaper. And that's still a problem. So yes, Verizon is fighting back using their value brands, but the postpaid brand, they continue to remain stubborn, and they're not budging. So they will continue to invest in the network. We know that. They need to monetize. But the fact that they haven't shown consistent growth on the postpaid consumer side should have you a little worried. So if they can stop the prepaid bleeding and they grow prepaid, right? The prepaid segment, I mean, this is technically all prepaid because Verizon owns it directly, right? So they're going to show growth on prepaid, but eventually it will reflect on the finances. It might not be this year, it might not be next year, but down the line, you might just see a reduction because customers are choosing other ways to access the Verizon network for less money. So that could potentially also force Verizon to have to drop pricing on postpaid a little bit to try and find some growth in that segment. So that's all I have for today. Just wanted to talk about that briefly to let you guys know, hey, Verizon is changing. It's happening right in front of our eyes. And it's very, very noticeable in the messaging. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Live. See y'all in the next one. Peace.